The speed of decision making is the essence of good governance. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Are we going too fast or are we going too slow? Where do we stand at the moment? Tonight our topic of discussion stands about the national economy by strengthening local government institutions. In Sri Lanka right now, we have budgets passed for the local government bodies. Where do we stand today? We'll be talking about Sri Lanka's political climate. We'll be talking about the way in which we are moving forward presently and the next few months. How is it going to end for the country? Are we going to see a presidential election? Are we going to see a provincial council election? Or next year, is it going to be a general election? Where do we stand at the moment? To discuss all this and more, we've invited three guests to our studios this evening. However, we are waiting the arrival of one of our guests tonight on the show. But let me quickly introduce you our two guests who have arrived to Stein Studios, Ratmalana. Let me quickly introduce them to you. Joining us tonight on the show for the first time is Chris Balthazar, Devala Mount Limina Municipal Council representing the Sri Lanka Pulajana Peramuna. Nice to have you on board, Chris, for the first time on the show.
Thank you.
Also joining us tonight on the show is Dr. Ranil Jayasena, Colombo Municipal Councillor representing the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. He's been on the show just prior to the February 10th, 2018 elections. Now he's back on the show after a lapse of nearly 10 months. Nice to have you on board as well, Dr. Jayasena, after some time. So let's start off tonight's show with Dr. Ranil Jayasena, Colombo Municipal Councillor. Dr. Jayasena, we've not seen a budget from the Municipal Council for some time now. The budget was based on a commissioner's budget and allocations were made accordingly. Finally, you all now have a budget. Where do we stand right now as far as the Colombo Municipal Council is concerned?
Yeah, so the budget for 2019, the expected income is about 16.9 billion, almost 17 billion rupees, compared to the last year, which was about 15.5. And out of that, most of the funds were allocated for things like garbage disposal and some amount for the health and education and upliftment of the people's lives. But we as JVP members had to oppose the budget because we have been observing so much corruption, mismanagement and maldistribution of funds for various things, because actually after 10 months after the last the opening ceremony, and this was the first budget submitted to the council, and but through the commissioner's budget they have been utilizing that money, and we observed some irregularities. And also observing similar irregularities and mismanagement in this budget also. We had to actually oppose.
Dr. Jayasena, when you really look at the last few years, let's take a look back the last 15 years or so. Whenever the JP has been a part of a vote on account or vote on a budget, they've always opposed it. So this time around as well, predominantly, we've seen this in the past happening. This time around as well, your party goes and opposes the budget. Is this a policy of the JVP or is it the way in which it functions?
No, actually it's not a policy because over the last 70 years, these two major camps have not been successful in providing the service to the people for their expectation. And also now we have to rebuild this country with a different system. The system has to be changed Because not that JVP had a policy of opposing to all these things, but always we observed these irregularities and corruption and mismanagement.
Thank you very much.
Therefore, we were actually compelled to oppose, not on the policy basis, we were compelled to oppose.
So, where do we stand right now in terms of the Colombo Municipal Council budget for the year 2019? Is it good, is it bad, or can we get something out for the people of Colombo in the next few months?
Yeah, I think it is a bad budget, because when you take, for an example, if you take the money allocated for the garbage disposal, right? And where that could have been done with I think as far as I can remember, it was about 1.4 billion rupees allocated for the garbage disposal, and no proper plan was formulated there, no proper plan, and so much wastage of money incurred. And for the transport of the garbage to one place to many kilometers away, and where they could have had a strategy, they could manage this garbage in the city itself. Right? That's what we have observed. And because we have enough land space in the Colombo area, and instead of having that sort of system, we transport so much garbage, spending a lot of money on tractors, lorries and all that, which also have to be maintained with people's money. People pay taxes to the council, and we abuse that money. So actually it's a waste of money, unnecessary waste of money.
But the JP very well supported the 2004 SLFP-led government. At the general election, they did hold several ministerial positions, and then you all were all okay with the budgets that were presented thereafter, when you all were joining hands with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
And we supported that Sri Lanka Freedom Party that time, not based on this, right, budget or anything, but you know, I think Chandrika Bandaranaike, she pledged that the executive presidency will be abolished, and JVP always supported the abolition of executive presidency, and that time actually the main concern was that, right, and same time we wanted to get that party also to the correct path, right, being a part of the administration.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ranil Jayasena, Colombo Municipal Councillor, representing the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. I now move my attention to Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Council, representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Nice to have you on the show as well, Pradeep, for the first time on Face the Nation. Pradeep, we just heard the thoughts from Dr. Ranil Jayasena, representing the Colombo Municipal Council. Unfortunately, our efforts to hunt down a UNP councillor was not successful for best reasons known to the United National Party itself. However, we have three very good councillors representing the three different parties: Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna, as well as the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. So Pradeep, you just heard the thoughts of Dr. Ranil Jayasena saying that this budget that has been presented, as far as the Colombo Municipal Council is concerned, is not good enough. What are your thoughts representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party? Where do you come from?
We see the difficulty in the budget is that there is no real flexibility in the budget, because all of the revenue is used up in the running and the costs of the council. So to do anything new, to make any new initiative, it's very difficult to initiate that. The difficulty that we've been having is that revenue is very fixed. There are a certain amount of revenue that we are getting, and the expenses have grown to that level. And because the decision making and the planning is very ad hoc, there is very little room for anybody to make any changes. So we find ourselves rigidly bound by the whatever plans which have been generated from the officials and the staff and the officials of the
So do you mean to say, Pradeep,
center.
Do you mean to say that in the event the Sri Lanka Freedom Party had the majority in the Colombo Municipal Council, that y'all couldn't do anything different either, because y'all have to spend the money to maintain the council, which has a large number right now?
Yeah, I think you need to look at a planning process which starts from the ground up, where the planning, a very clear plan is drawn, and based on that plan that a budget is developed. Here what we have is the plan is already there, and the plan cannot be changed, so the budget has to fit into that. So I think that's the wrong way around. And if we have more control of the council, I think we would implement a much more structured and much more planned and developed approach.
So now you have one mayor and 119 municipal councillors.
That's right.
Isn't the number too big?
Well, it is a number we got out of the new system that was developed. I think everybody agrees the number is too big, but what do we do with it? It's what the system created, the new electoral system that we developed, that everybody sat together and came up with a system that has double the number of, more than double the number of councillors, and nobody knows what to do with it now.
So do you mean to say that the 119 members who are elected are not doing their required job, and the public at the end of the day have to pay their salaries and end up with nothing but just the raw end of the stick or the rope?
No, I think a lot of the councillors are all trying to do their part. The difficulty is that the structure of the council itself now has twice the number of councillors to work with, so I think that puts a lot of burden on the staff itself. They have to respond to many more councillors.
So where do we stand at the moment, the next few months? Do you think that we will see a significant turnaround when it comes to garbage collection, which is one of the main issues as far as the Colombo Municipal Council is concerned? We just heard that the governor of the central province stating that he wants to make Kandy a green city. So why not start that from Colombo? Do you think that the next few months we'll see the garbage collection having a much more streamlined process, a mechanism? Will we see some difference, at least in the next few months?
Well, it's not a garbage collection problem, it's a garbage disposal problem. Because when Mitoramullu collapsed, we suddenly had a difficulty of disposing the garbage because nobody wanted to create another Mitoramullu. So we decided that separation must be done and the garbage must be processed, and only a certain part of it could be dumped. The rest of it has to be processed. Unfortunately, separation at the home level can't be done 100%. It has not been done. Even in Germany, with 30 years experience, they have not been able to separate 100% at home.
But what is the process that we have right now? You know, we separate the garbage. I know that for a fact in my house we have 4 different bins for waste, for polythene, and so on and so forth. So what happens when these are collected separately? Is it all dumped in the same spot, or what happens?
No, they are separated. There is a recycling part of it. It goes for recycling, some of it is going for composting, and only some of it is being dumped. Unfortunately, many homes cannot do this separation, because if you take a very small home and you separate and you keep the composing garbage maybe in your own living room for 2, 3, 4 days, it becomes, you can't live in that house. So what they do is they don't bother to separate. They just pay somebody maybe 100 rupees to take the garbage out, and it ends up in our canals and it ends up in our seas. So that's a disaster that's happening today.
Thank you very much, Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Council represents Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The process is in place, however, how far is it successful is the biggest problem that we have at the moment. I now move my attention to Chris Balthazar, the very young Chris Balthazar, representing the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council. He's representing the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna, one-time UN peer. Let me start off asking you, why did you cross over first, and then we'll speak about the budget and so on and so forth. Why did you cross over, Chris?
First of all, let me thank Channel 1 MTV for having me over this evening. Well, coming to your question, it was a very hard decision that I had to go through. But then again, back in 2015, when the presidential election was on, I found that there was a vacuum in the leadership of the United National Party at that time. And it was always about having, without a proper leader from the party coming forward, there was only someone who came, we had a common candidate coming in. But whereas, you know, when majority of the people were with the former president, I thought it's the best move that I should take. And also I had a personal problem with the presidential candidate at that time. So I had by these things where the leadership of the UMP disagreed with me, so I had to make a strong decision and move forward. And up to date, I have no regrets whatsoever in the decisions that I have made. And I think had I made it earlier, these decisions, I would have been further up in my political career by now.
The Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council also had to face the same problem as Colombo Municipal Council. We did not have a budget for the council. However, 10 months down the line, now there is a budget for the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council as well. Where do we stand in terms of ensuring that the people's aspirations are met in this part of Colombo district? Where do we stand at the present moment as we speak when it comes to garbage collection, garbage disposal, drug abuse and so on and so forth, health issues like dengue? Where do we stand at the moment as far as budget 2019 for the council is concerned?
What I have in hand here is the program budget for 2019 that was approved in November, on the 30th of November. So the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council is by far the second largest municipal council in Sri Lanka, next to Colombo. We have a budget of close upon 2 billion rupees as a spending budget, as opposed to Colombo having 16.9 billion. And population-wise, we have close upon 200,000 people as a population within the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council. Now, when we take the budget, we as council members took very close approaches. We have our committees. So the committees work, you get the Works Committee, you get the Solid Waste Management Committee, you get the City Development Committee. So all these committees and the chairmans, we all sat down together along with the opposition as well. And see, when you take a budget, defeating a budget, there is no such thing as you can, how you can defeat it, because it's read thrice. There's the first reading where all members sit down, and then the second reading, and then at the third reading is when you come for a budget election. So twice it has been passed, and on the third occasion is when it's when you know the other parties won't vote. So 2 times they agreed, third time it's disagreeing. Still, for all, the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon Municipal Council, we won this time's budget, and basically when it comes to we have segmented the funding, where for garbage collection we have identified our weaknesses and we have allocated the funds accordingly. For city development we have identified our weaknesses, and where we have to go forward we have allocated the funding. So this time's budget, the budget that has been allocated is all about development of the city and also bringing new concepts. For example, you have Colombo coming up with the port city, and the Dehiwala Mount Lebanon, what we are going to have is like, you know, we are going to brand ourselves. So we'll go as like
as what?
The city by the sea. Some, you know, that's conceptualize it, and then go by a theme, and that's where, you know, it's not our voters that we talk about. Every single citizen in our constituents are stakeholders of the council, and we are representatives of them.
Chris, I want to take you back to my earlier question. I asked you why you crossed over from the UNP to the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna. And being a young councillor, were you not concerned about the corruption that took place within the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramana members, like we had the former mayor of the Devil Mountain Municipal Council, who was not even able to win his ward, and now he's still one of your strong men as far as the organizing is concerned in the area. So there was a lot of corruption that took place within the council at that time, and you were also a member. My question to you is very simple. When you crossed over from the UNP to the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramana, wasn't this a concern to you?
Well, corruption is only, there are only allegations. It's been close upon 4 years since this government has taken over. And it was only allegations that they made. Where is the hard evidence to say that this was done? They spoke about Lamborghinis, they spoke about helicopters, they spoke about golden horses. Municipal council wise, they spoke about so many things. But where is the evidence? Where have they proved it? So isn't it blatant lies that have been spread around? And 4 years down the line, still fingers being pointed at, at the Rajapaksa regime, as well as the Dhansiri Amratunga regime, who was my previous mayor. And being a councillor from the opposition at that point, working with him hand in hand, he's such a great leader. To come into the fact
Chris,
that you say
Chris,
that...
I'm posing this question to you. Why? Because my brother had to pay, who built a house in the Dehavel Mountain municipality area, had to pay approximately around 2 million rupees to get a simple plan passed because the individuals in the area were so rigid, and this was happening during the Dhanasri Amaratunga regime, as I spoke to you earlier. So there was corruption, and I'm talking with evidence to you because it did happen.
But my question is, did you was your brother able to make a complaint about it?
He did make a complaint about it, but at that time there was a lot of issues with regard to the regime and the way in which things did function at that time. So my question to you is very simple. There was corruption, and you're saying there was no corruption. However, if you speak to many people, if the mayor was not even able to win his ward, there is a reason behind it, isn't it?
It's a system. It's the electoral system. For a person who gets 66,000 votes at a parliamentary election, not to win his ward, that's two different steps. Because you're talking, this is basically it's a very micro scale operation. So, for me, I obtained 2,600 preferential votes during my last period, and this time around it was only 1,090. Speaking more than him, we had a former parliamentarian who lost terribly, who's quite often on your show. Who was so this.
Who lost you? Who lost you in the ward? Anyway, thank you very much, Chris, for joining us this evening. I open the floor for questions. We're waiting for Charlene to come from the newsroom from Colombo. So we are waiting for him, but on to my immediate left is attorney at law Sonali. So let's start off with Sonali, as we are only left with Sonali at the moment.
Thanks, Shamir. My first question is to Mr. Jayawardena. We are told that a lot of people in Sri Lanka now have a sense of disenchantment, dissatisfaction with the political situation in the country. We keep hearing statements to the effect that we require a leadership and a movement that can capture the hearts and minds of a wearied people, and that our collective will must be harnessed to achieve equality and social justice. However, my question to you is, how does this filter down from national level politics to the grassroots level to local government institutions?
Yeah, I think there is a general sense in the country that there's a lack of strong leadership, strong direction in the country. And people are looking for that. People are looking for the right lead, and I think we have had a lot of change from a very strong, powerful government with a very strong leader. Then we had a change a radical change where we've seen the two major parties come together and form a government, hoping that it would be successful. But I think the end result was not successful. So I'm not a believer in two parties getting together, because I think you always need a balance of two sides. and even in a private entity or a company or corporate, you need two people to balance, or two forces to balance things. Then you get the best. You know, if you take the corporate world, you need competition in a business to make you sharp. So like that, I think we need that. So we have just gone back to the two-party system and with competing sides. So I think the next election will be the key, where we will start to see leadership emerge. So I'm very hopeful that things will change and this apathy will go away.
You are a proponent of always having a bottom-up approach as opposed to a top-down approach. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes.
When it comes to political decision-making and implementation in general?
Yes, I would say that. I think the consultation from the bottom is very important, because that's where a lot of information and knowledge is. So unless the people at the top can really read that, I think you have a lot of difficulty.
Chris, you just showed us the program budget for 2019. Could you just detail for our viewers what exactly it entails?
You want the stats that's given in, or?
What are the areas that it covers?
So basically,
waste management, health.
See, according to the ordinance of the municipality, there are key functions that a municipal council has to function with. So this is the 1987 municipal ordinance. So it's basically I'll go to the ground. I won't go through the ordinance to you. So it's waste management, city development, sports and welfare, rehabilitation programs, then street lamps, roadways, drains, maintenance of drains and things, so on and so forth. So all these areas are taken in different departments. So the engineering department will be in charge of the maintenance and the roadways, and there's budget allocation for that. Then apart from that, the solid waste management and the MOH department, so they will come into child clinics, the solid waste disposal, the management solutions for the solid waste. So there's so many components that we gather up on this.
What mechanisms are in place to ensure the proper implementation of these budgets and these proposals?
So that's where the councillors come in.
Right.
So this is the formula is there.
Absolutely.
And then
how successful is the implementation process and the follow-up is what I'm asking you.
So the implementation process, it depends. See, as a local government, we are independent in our own way. You take I'm speaking on behalf of the Devila Mountain Municipal. We are independent in our own way because we can fund ourselves. So with a 2 billion rupee budget and taking this forward, we have, when it comes to implementation, it's a matter of just getting it through the council, tabling it, getting it approved and working on it. So we have a very rapid system as of now, from the 1st of January, where we have, we implement things, we want to implement things as fast as we can. So we have, even now within the council, we have established a ERP system so that, documentation within the council becomes faster. Above that, we are digitizing the council. So, it won't be a matter...
In which stage is the digitization process right now?
Now at the moment, it's followed up by discussions where we are going in for, it has to go through tender process. So it's not the members or the councillors that slows down the process. It's a system as it is, So,
and that is why we have young individuals like you to ensure that
so the
there's
system,
no issue
for
with
example,
I'll give you or the system which is in place already.
I'll give you a very basic example. We need a tractor. So to buy that tractor, it's a matter of the councillors getting together and saying, let's buy this tractor. So it's put into the committee, it has to go through a committee, then it has to go to the finance committee, and over that it has to go into the general committee meeting. And then it has to get approved there. So this is a process of about 1 month. And then once it gets approved, then some documents have to go to the chief, some to go to the governor, some to the chief local government office, then to the ministry. So once these all circulate and come down, you're going back about 3 months. So, you know, that's where this whole system has slowed down.
Dr. Jason, Chris speaks about this particular system that is in place where it takes around 2 to 3 months to get some approval. However, in Sri Lanka, even having so much of systems in place, we still see corruption so rampant in all quarters of society at the moment, or even at almost all state institutions, if I say it correctly. Why is that? Even after having so much of process in place, it goes to a committee, it goes through a process, it takes around 2.5 months, 3 months, and then still there's corruption.
I think the slowness.
Yeah, there's actually the system in Colombo Municipal Council almost similar to what Krishna was explaining. Corruption occurs at various points. I will give a few examples. Now, for a project, they allocate some money and given a contract. The contract that is also on tender after tendering this thing. And what happens, where some project which could have been completed, say for example 300 million rupees, right? Contractor gets it for 1,000 million rupees, right? And from that money, some members are getting some faction, right? That is how it goes.
I think you raise a good point. I think in the slowness of the approval process. So the slowness itself breeds corruption, because if none of us can wait for this long period of time to get something approved, so if there is a way to make it faster by paying something extra, then most people will take that option. So that is what you call corruption. So
yeah, but Pradeep, even if you look at on certain instances, the tender procedures that are in place, you wait until the last minute, not order particular goods, maybe medicine or so on and so forth, and suddenly you go and disrupt the entire tender procedure and start ordering things deviating from the normal tender procedure. And then there is corruption that is taking place. So the question was very simple. My question was, having such a slow system in place also leads to corruption. Then what is the option that we have?
No, I think these are all antiquated systems which need to be changed. You know, I think I'm glad to see that the Hevila Mount Lavinia is going for digitization. In Colombo Municipal Council, we are very behind that, because there is a lot of resistance to change. Nobody wants to change the system because the system is, they are used to it, and this is the system they've always had, and they are comfortable. There are many people who are quite comfortable with the system. So, and to make the system work faster, you have to pay. And if you pay, you can make it move fast, and that's fine by a lot of people too. But you know, this is what this is what breeds corruption.
Pradeep, I pose this question to Chris as well. You are the grandson of former executive president and the most respected individual as far as the UNP is concerned, the first executive president of Sri Lanka, Mr. J.R. Jayawardena. And you too broke the ranks with the UNP, because naturally someone may think that Pradeep Jayawardena, the grandson of the former president, may also contest under the UNP ticket, but that did not happen. If I may ask, why?
I think best to direct that question at the UNP, because they should be able to answer it better than me. I in fact approached the UNP in 2015 during the general election, and I didn't get a positive response from them. So after that I thought it's best to find an alternate route, and I'm very happy that I did, because I think, as Chris mentioned, there is a very serious leadership issue within the UNP. So I'm very happy.
You were also approached by the Sri Lanka Poljana Peramuna, but you still opted to contest with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, apart from the fact that the only difference is Chris agreed to contest under the SLPP, but You got offers from both sides, and then you decided to contest under the SLFP. Why?
I was already in the SLFP, and I believed that these two parties will come together. So I didn't think that was necessary for me to go into the SLPP.
You mentioned about leadership will emerge. What do you mean by that? Do you think that the leadership will come from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party or the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna or the UNP or even the JVP?
I think when we are getting close to elections, you'll see a lot of new faces coming in, and already we are beginning to see many business people throwing their hat into the ring and starting to be interested in politics. So I think that's a very good sign. So I think there's a lot of leadership out there that may not be yet recognized. So I believe that if there is I don't think leadership will ever exist in a vacuum, or that if there is a vacuum, then there will be something.
So do you mean to say that Pradeep Jayawardena, the grandson of former President Mr. J.R. Jayawardena, will not be supporting a conventional candidate at the next election or the presidential election, and he would probably throw his weight behind potentially a businessman or a new individual who will come to the forefront or and contest the presidential election? Would that happen?
I think that whoever comes in to be successful has to be with one of the major political parties, because there is no possibility of a private entry to be successful.
When you say major political parties, we have the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we have the United National Party, we have the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. Do we have the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna in the equation as well?
I think it's now, it is as an independent party, but I think that it's very clear that they will be working together with the SLFP. So I see that as one block, and together they will field a candidate. And I think that would be the
Dr. Jayasena, does this concern the JVP? Because the JP has always been an underdog in this entire game.
As far as the presidential election is concerned, we are against the executive presidency, and we are trying to get executive presidency abolished through 20th amendment. That's why JVP brought this up, the 20th amendment, to abolish the executive presidency. Now we all observed the arrogant behavior in that position on 26th of October, and there was a very volatile situation still prevails.
So Dr. Jayasena, you mean to say that the executive presidency should be abolished, am I right?
Yes, yes, that is our view. Executive presidency should be abolished. Actually, this was very clear and obvious that it doesn't suit Sri Lanka.
But it did suit Sri Lanka at the 2009 when Sri Lanka defeated the war. The executive presidential system did help Sri Lanka, isn't it?
But
and you said
during
that one of your concerns,
Sinema Bandaranayake government also, there was some riots and problems, but it was solved through the parliament, the legislative system, parliamentary system, and we don't agree that executive presidency protect that sort of things.
But I think, Dr. Jayasena, you're mixing up. Sinema Bandaranayake time, it was the Constitutional Assembly that came into being in 1971, and it was only after 1977 that the executive presidential system did be effective in Sri Lanka after J.R. Jayawardena's constitution. So there is definitely a mismatch in what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I think that there's a misconception saying that executive presidency is necessary to prevent the war situation like that, and actually it is not so. Now, for example, people say when Vargaraja Perumal hoisted the LTT flag because of this executive presidency, it could have been prevented. But it is in the Provincial Act where the president can consult the governor and still dissolve the provincial council in that sort of situation. Therefore, the argument the people come up with, right, we don't agree. because we don't agree, because that sort of situation still be handled.
So I need to pose this question to Pradeep Jayawardena as well, representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, also Colombo Municipal Council. Your grandfather was the architect of the executive presidential system. Do you think that the executive presidential system should at least be abolished now? Because you are of the opinion for some time that the executive presidential system should be effective and there is no need for a new constitution. With the right person being at the top, everything for Sri Lanka will go well. But do you think that we need a change, Pradeep?
We have had the executive presidency now for 40 years, and I think we haven't done too badly during that time. We have had continuous growth, except for one single year in 2001. Due to a power crisis, we had negative growth, but we have always had positive growth. We have defeated the one of the world's most brutal terrorist armies and the longest running war in Asia. I think that anybody who says that the executive presidential system is not good is only, the reason is because they can't make it work for them. So therefore they decry it. The United National Party, which brought the executive presidential system in, which should be the strongest backer of it, is today saying it should be abolished because the leaders of the United National Party can't come to power through it. So I think it is completely hypocritical for anybody to say that this system doesn't work. It works, it has worked, and it will continue to work, and I think it is very difficult for anyone to change it.
I think, Pradeep, I want to take you back to the 1995, the federal solution that was proposed by Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, also one of the executive presidents in Sri Lanka. And I have read books and articles which says that when the UNP consulted J.R. Jayawardena about the federal solution that was brought forward by Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, he had in fact instructed Ranil Wickremesinghe, now the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, to oppose this in Parliament, and that's what exactly Ranil Wickremesinghe did in Parliament as well, opposing this proposal that was brought forward in the year 1995. So the UNP...
I don't agree with that because firstly I think UNP didn't consult J.R. Jayawardena. He voluntarily asked Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe to come to his residence, and he instructed him to oppose it because he said that this is a very dangerous constitution system that is coming in. And Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe at that time didn't show much interest in opposing it. But what happened was, over a period of another year, within his party, opposition grew to this, against this system, and the party itself decided to oppose it, and then he was carried away.
With people like Gamin Dissanayake, with individuals in the caliber of Lalita Mudali, if they were living, do you think that Sri Lanka would be in a better position right now? I
think so. I think Gamin Dissanayake had a great vision. I worked closely with him in 1994. In fact, I missed being on his stage by maybe a few minutes at Totalanga. And I know I saw his vision, I understood how he thought about the country, and I think we would have been far ahead. Unfortunately, we lost those leaders.
Chris, you being the most youngest council in the Development Municipal Council at 32, what are your thoughts about a new constitution coming into play?
See, since 1978 until now, this country has seen 19 amendments, and now we are seeing the light of a 20th amendment. My question is, does this country actually need so many constitutional amendments? For a small country like ours, so many amendments coming in, and the amendments come in not for the sake of the country, but it's for the time being and the well-being of that prevailing government and their leadership.
Like the 18th Amendment of the Constitution that was brought forward by President Mahinda Rajapaksa to extend his term and stay on power.
Well, the people opposed it in a way, and that's where, you know,
the parliamentarians did not oppose. He got a 2/3 majority for the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, Chris.
So, see, this is where the powers of the executive, as you know,
I think that is the greatest safeguard. That is the greatest safeguard in this president's system, because when you limit the term, it's a safeguard, because nobody can go beyond 2 terms. But when you take that out, that was a very it was a risky thing to do for President Mahinda himself, because when he removed that, he united all his enemies, because they all realized that they had to get together and defeat him, otherwise there was no chance.
And then the 19th Amendment of the Constitution came, Chris, to abolish the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, and it was simply done to make sure that the 3rd term of the president was completely taken out, and there were certain amendments that added up as far as Constitutional Council was concerned and the independent commissions are concerned. That's a different story altogether.
But don't you see that the 19th Amendment was also focused purely on the Rajapaksa family? Where, you know,
wasn't the 18th Amendment of the Constitution also purely focused on the Rajapaksa family?
It was the extension of the presidential essay. So that's in general. But you know, you have a youth leader coming up. And
who's the youth leader who's coming up?
Namal Rajapaksa. And then, you know, they say that just the fear that he might come into a presidential election, they say you have to be over 35 years of age. So, you know, with the presidential election coming close by, and then they put this. So, you know, it's how we can interpret it. You know, you can say one thing, I can say another, and it's how it's all interpreted. Even that's what we saw during the last few months.
So, Chris,
you know?
so Chris, are you trying to tell me that there is no one in the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna apart from Namal Rajapaksa to lead the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna at the next presidential election because the 19th Amendment of the Constitution was brought into effect?
See, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna is basically, it has opened up its gateways for anyone. Now, see, I'm a burgher, and I'm the only burgher politician in this country at the moment. Okay, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna opened its gates for me. It gave my people the opportunity, the burgher community, the opportunity to come and vote for me.
As it should. This is an equal country.
Yeah.
Equality is ensured by the Constitution.
You know, but
and you also elected as a councillor when you contest on the UNP ticket as well, and then you were burgher too. I don't think you changed your...
Yeah, there was no... But I'm saying, you know, it's this... The concept behind it is that the SLPP are a racial group, that they're very, you know, they're partial towards one ethnic community. So this is what the opposition or, you know, the government are trying to bring out. But what I'm trying to say is, if that's the case, then what am I doing in there? You know, so it's how the interpretations have been done. As I said before, you know, the lies that were mentioned about the Lamborghinis to the horses to all that, and now how you know, communities have been separated, and the ethnic harmony has been deviated just by these things being brought up.
Chris, I want to drag your attention to 2014 before we go in for a short commercial break. To August, when the Aludgam incident took place, I was also in Berwal at that time. Me being a Muslim myself, I saw individuals with swords. I was a reporter back then for Newsfirst. I myself saw what was going on in the country, and that probably was one of the reasons that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party that was led by President Mahinda Rajapaksa lost the minority vote. Do you agree?
Well, are you trying to say that it was a Rajapaksa-led?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying that there was an incident that took place in Aludgama.
There was an incident that took place in Kandy, in Digana a few months back. To a similar magnitude. And
you know that I probably think that you know the individuals who were behind that attack.
Well, it's not been brought out. No?
Right.
There's only accusations that have been made to Sri Lanka parliamentarians, but then there's more to the story. You know, when things happen in Berwala, who was the organizing Berwala at that time? You know, there's so many fingers that we can point at everyone. They can point fingers at us, we can point fingers at them.
No, Chris, some example.
But it's the people that at the bottom line are suffering because of this.
Very quickly, let's take an example like what happened at the United Nations headquarters when Vimal Veeravansa was launched a fast on death campaign. We know the current the former defense secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa on the phone, and they tried to assault the DIG of Colombo at that time as well. This is the public domain. If you want to go to the internet, just type the incident and what happened. You'll get ample videos to prove what happened during that time. So isn't this impunity?
See, aren't there isolated incidents that happen? The incidents do happen, but there are isolated incidents that happen. Why has the people? Why
my question is, do you still think that the Rajapaksas are the ones who can lead this country?
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. So we're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we speak about Sri Lanka's political climate. We have the grandson of the former executive president of Sri Lanka, Pradeep Jayawardena. We have Chris Balsa, who's the youngest municipal councillor of the Devil Mountain Municipal Council, representing Sri Lanka Position Peramuna, and also Dr. Ryan Jayasen, who led the Janata Vimukti Peramuna at the Colombo Municipal Council elections on the 10th of February 2018. All this and more after this short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the third round with Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Council, representing Sri Lanka Freedom Party. We also have we just saw the arrival of Charlene Benedict as well from the newsroom. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll hear from Charlene in a minute or two. But let's drag our attention to Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Councillor. Pradeep, I want to go back to the Constitution because this is one of the most hotly debated topics these days. The UNP joining hands with M.A. Sumandiran from the Tamil National Alliance to draft a new constitution. However, we speak about the word Ekya Rajya more than 1 million times. We speak about making sure that the constitution is built on this framework. And people say that Sri Lanka is yet again playing with its constitution. Do you agree with this?
Yes, I think Ekya Rajya concept has already been established very long. This didn't come from the 78 constitution, this came from I think 1972, and it's very well established, and nobody has any questions or doubts about it. So why tinker with it now? So I don't understand why we need to play with these words again. Nobody has any doubts and as to the meaning. That's one. Secondly, if you're talking about devolution, I will quote President Jayawardena. He said that he has gone as far as anyone can go in devolution. He said that nobody can go any further. So these words ring in my ears, and I keep thinking that his words were true, that because we are trying now to go further, and even I think President Mahinda tried to go further. He said 13 plus, he couldn't do it. And we are trying it again. So I think we will have difficulty and we'll have trouble if we try to do it.
Why not have Pradeep, the executive power centering around the Prime Minister? Because let's take our neighbor India. Power centers around the Prime Minister. Let's take a look at Canada. Let's take a look at France, for an example. Let's take a look at Australia, for an example. Power centers around the Prime Minister. And why mustn't Sri Lanka adopt such a model?
Well, we know the difficulties that India has had with so many changes of government and unstable governments. And we know what has happened in France, of course, is a presidential system. With Australia, they've also had difficulties, but all these countries are Commonwealth, and they are still, the Queen is still part of the system. So the difference in the presidential system is that yes, one person has a lot of power, but that is for a limited period. One. Secondly, that person is elected by the entire country. So more than 50% of the people of this country must vote. So you will eliminate a lot of bad people, and people say, what if you elect a madman? Okay. The chances are he'll never get there, because he has to convince more than 50% of the people that he's capable of taking this country. So, and I think we've had many different people in the last 40 years. I don't
but
think
the problem with Sri Lanka, don't you think, Pradeep, it's not about the constitution, but it's about policy, not having a bipartisan policy. Don't you think this is a problem? Let's take Australia for an example. We see prime ministers changing at least once in every 2 years now. We've seen many prime ministers, many leadership votes taking place in Australia over and over again. I'm sorry for the mistake that I made on France, but even Canada, for an example, we have a stable prime minister there. But don't you think policy is a problem for Sri Lanka? Not having a bipartisan policy, isn't this a problem for Sri Lanka?
I don't see that.
Let's take the US for an example. The US has different presidents. We have we had a Democratic president, Barack Obama. Then we have a Republican president now, Donald Trump. But the policy per se has not changed towards other countries. It has remained as it is.
Why do you think Sri Lanka's policy has changed? I mean, the open economic system that we introduced has not changed in 40 years.
Let's talk about foreign policy.
The foreign
we
policy.
were very close to the Chinese at one point. Then we distanced from them and moved our hands to the West for help. And then we again started changing our policy and going back to the Chinese again.
No, I think
and
Chinese,
now we have
Chinese
Russia
is economic.
in the equation.
So that's not.
Then we have India in the equation right now. So hasn't this?
I think that's not foreign policy. That is purely economic, because with China provided the funding for our development. So and no other country did. Even though we thought America would come help us, they didn't give us that kind of funding. So that is economic. As far as foreign policy, I don't see a dramatic change in the succeeding governments, because we have continued to have very good diplomatic relationships with all the countries continuously. I don't see the change. There are changes in nuance, maybe.
I can give you a very classic example. Let's take the Human Rights Commission activities in Geneva. Mahinda Rajapaksa government was against the policies that was adopted by the Human Rights Commission in Geneva. However, there was a co-sponsored resolution, co-sponsored by Sri Lanka, which came into effect a few years ago. So there was clearly a shift in foreign policy, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that's foreign policy, but that is, how would you put it? It is, yeah, it is something. I think the government that came into power in 2015 had a powerful backing from many foreign forces, which included the diaspora and which included many of the foreign NGOs. So they were captive. They were captive to those forces, and they had to take that stance. I think it's a mistake. I think it's very dangerous and bad thing to have done. I think we will pay a very heavy price if we continue on that path, because it means that other countries can intervene in this country and start to take certain kind of action and certain kind of manipulation of our systems and our government itself.
Thank you very much, Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Councillor representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. I now move my attention to Dr. Ranil Jayasena, Colombo Municipal Councillor. Dr. Jayasena, do you agree with Pradeep when he says that it's important that we have the executive presidential system? There is no need for the power to be centering around the Prime Minister, because the President himself can take the right decision. If it's a Prime Minister, he needs the support of many individuals and so on and so forth. And right now the dilemma that Sri Lanka is facing is surrounding the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, which many say has not even been clearly interpreted. So where do we stand right now?
Yeah, what we believe is that we should have a new constitution, but we argue now, we discuss that, but it will never take us to a conclusion, because in this parliament this cannot be passed where there is no clear majority to any party. That's why we brought up this 20th Amendment, at least targeting abolition of executive presidency, because we don't believe that it fulfills our people's requirements and aspirations. Because executive presidency really undermines the legislature and also the judiciary. Actually now judiciary is little protected because of this constitutional council.
Dr. Jason, let's take a walk in Capitol level, let's take a walk down Trincomalee, let's take a walk in the rural villages down south and even in Jaffna. Do they want a constitution? Is that their priority?
But people won't understand what is this, that village people, what is this constitution and all that. But the living condition, if you want to uplift their living condition, actually that is the responsibility of the administrating unit.
But isn't Dr. Jason, isn't that the need of the hour right now? Is it a constitution that we need, or do we need a system where poverty is alleviated, people can fill their stomachs, interest rates come down, the economy is stabilized, the cost of living comes down? Isn't that the need of the hour?
Yeah, I agree with you in that context. Because
and the JP is fighting to bring in a new constitution. Why?
To give that sort of situation, and also to the people, the system should be changed. That's what we say.
No, but the JVP is fighting for a new constitution when the need of the hour of the Sri Lankan people is to bring down the cost of living, bring down the interest rates, bring down the prices of vegetables, meat items, the essential needs. And the JVP wakes up one morning and decides, let's talk about the constitution.
Yeah, that's what we are saying, that this present system is not helpful in giving solution to these problems.
And you think that the new constitution can bring down the cost of living?
No, not only the new constitution. We have to solve so many problems. Now we observed that sudden volatile situation which our countrymen faced on 26th. Right? It is very clear that it was due to the abuse of executive powers vested on the president, right?
But the Supreme Court came to the rescue and made sure that everything was corrected, and that is to show that the judiciary is always supreme, isn't it?
Yeah, actually we are grateful that because of the judiciary only that was solved.
No, but my question, Dr. Jason, I don't think you understand what I'm trying to ask you. My question is, what do we need right now? Let's say, what does Dr. Jayasena need right now? Dr. Jayasena need a new constitution or the cost of living to come down?
Yeah, cost of living to come down.
Right. So if that is the case, why is the JP harping about a new constitution? That is the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Do you think that you all can win another election talking about a new constitution, going to the grassroots level, making sure that you all garner support, make sure that you all have numbers in the parliament? Do you think that this is the way to go about? Honest opinion, Dr. Jason.
Yeah, actually, we are not holding the power now. We are trying to gain the power, right? If we were to gain power, we have to have some different policies, because all the policies already adopted by these two major camps were not being successful, right? Therefore, now we are coming up with actually we are producing a manifesto in February, right? And we have called upon all intellectuals and artists and other professionals, many sectors, to submit a policy document.
Dr. Jason, right? but the question again drives.
That's what as the JVP, right? At the moment, what we can do is to guide the rulers to a correct path to serve these people, and at the same time adopting to some system where we can gain power.
Dr.
Then
Jason,
we can give solution to the people.
Dr. Jason, let's say these artists, these stakeholders, all these people account to a good 1,000 individuals, let's say a very strong 1,000 individuals, do you think in any way that the JVP can influence the mindset of 15 million eligible voters in Sri Lanka by talking about a constitution?
No, it is also part of the
because many say, I'm asking you this question, Dr. Hassan, because many say now the JVP is trying to fulfill the aspirations of the international community. They're working on an agenda, and that is why I'm posing this question to you. Knowing very well that a constitutional discussion is not going to be the future of the JVP, why does the JVP have this on top of their head day and night, talking about the 20th Amendment of the Constitution, when this does not appeal to the rural masses of Sri Lanka, who are the eligible voters in the country? Why?
Yeah, actually people were harassed, people were affected by this system. Therefore, that's why the JVP brought up this 20th Amendment, at least, targeting the abolition of that's why I'm repeatedly saying that because we stand by the people, right? We are concerned about their problems. Now these major parties, and they are fighting for their power, right? Everything was done for their power. Now JVP, and we stand by people and we are concerned about their problems, and we try to see how can we help these people, right? And now if it is a barrier, the executive presidency it's a barrier, therefore we have to do something for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ryan Jayasena, Kalam Municipal Councillor representing the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. I now move my attention to Chris Balthazar, Councillor, Sri Lanka Podjana Peramuna, Devila Mount Lavinia Municipal Council. Chris, the new constitution, where is the Sri Lanka Podjana Peramuna standing at the moment? Because we heard President Mahinda Rajapaksa a few days ago in an interview during the night, which is now very prominent on social media, saying that a new constitution is needed. This again, Chris, if you want to go on Facebook or social media, just type Mahinda Rajapaksa recent interview on constitution. It's all over about him saying it's important to have a new constitution. And then a few days later, we hear the same man saying, I don't know about the constitution that is being formulated by Sumandiran and the United National Party, and hence we are not for a new constitution. Now I'm trying to figure out who is fooling who.
See, let me just go back to what Doctor said and what you were talking about, and then I'll come back to this question. Is where, see, from the side that we would see is that the JVP now are partly stakeholders of the existing government, and why is the JVP only talking about this 20th Amendment and why are they talking about new constitution? The reason is that's to deviate the attention of the people. As you said, can they, by what they're doing, can they appeal to 15 million people? What that is, now it's come to, it's quite obvious that this is just an absolute deviation that they're doing to hide, or to make the news highlights on a day-in, day-out news bulletin where the country is suffering on so many different angles. If I can just point out a few things to you, we had the port city investment, the Hambantota, this is, so that's 1 billion rupee investment that was done, and that China gave us, the 1 billion. But did you know that the annual tax turnover from tobacco and alcohol alone is 150 billion rupees per annum? So, on one side we are selling our local assets, or we are subleasing it we are leasing it for 99 years. But within the system, we have a fund generating system of 150 billion rupees just from alcohol and tobacco.
Chris, have you been to Galface, by the way?
Yes, I
which
have.
is in the Colombo district. If you go to Galface, if you are facing the Colombo harbour, if you turn onto your right, you'll see the Shangri-La hotel complex that was built and which was sold by the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime to the company in question. If you turn onto your left, you see the port city, which was also sold. Sri Lankan land sold by the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime, Chinese. If you look a little bit further up, you'll see another complex that is being put up. Excuse me?
Sold or leased?
So you know that it was on a 99-year lease.
Yes.
And that means you and I won't be living for the next few years to see or reap the benefits of these lands that are onto your right and on your left.
See, the land to your left, the benefit was by giving it on the 99-year lease, where we could have benefited, we're benefiting something from it. Okay, the land on the right, it's a development that has come in. And you can already see...
And just to correct you, land on the left was sold, but land on the right was leased. The port city I'm talking about. Majority of the land was sold to the Chinese.
I think it was 12%.
Yeah, it was sold.
12% of this thing was given.
Yeah, so it started...
But then you take the United National Party, who said that they're going to stop the port city. Now they're talking of phase 2.
On 99-year lease.
You see the megapolis minister coming forward, and after declaring part of Colombo district, they come and say that they're thinking of phase 2 also. So then what I'm trying to say here is
but I'm posing this question to you because you're young, and I'm as young as you, by the way. And when we both go to Galface and start realizing that the land onto our left and right has been sold by the Rajapaksa regime, and you start thinking, is this the future that we need? And now you are talking about the UNP selling state assets as well, but this started off with the Rajapaksa regime. You know that China has a debt trap. What they do is, in many developing nations, they go and invest money, and then when they can't repay that, they buy over these particular lands or these particular assets in question. You know that very well. Yeah. I'll tell you a classic example. The Sri Lankan port in Hambantota was estimated to be a value of $1.3 billion US. China offered a price of 800 million only. So then what happened to the 4 million, which was the estimated cost? So, issues like this did crop up, Chris. So you start wondering, who did what first? So, in your opinion, you still think that the Rajapaksa regime...
Well, once again, I said, as I said, we can point fingers at each other, we can play...
No, I'm not trying to point fingers
at
you. I'm just trying to say,
as political
this
parties,
did happen in the past, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, where economic mismanagement has taken place in this country, and the JVP on one side are covering up for the government. And then, of course, there is now back again, the SLFP and the SLPP are back together. But the monies that this government has taken and the monies that has come in, where is it? You speak about should the government, the port being sold, port city being sold, or the Shangri-La being sold. But you saw significant development. It's there in your eyes, But $1 billion US, you sell the Hambantota port, you lease it out, and then where did the money go? What happened to that?
And you know that most of that money went for the debt repayment that happened because of the debt taking of the Rajapaksa regime.
Yeah, but
from the Chinese.
The past 4 years, the amount of loans that have been taken as opposed to the ones that was taken by the Rajapaksas. And also, what I'm talking is the money that comes within the system. For example, we saw the health ministry purchasing 182 ambulances. Now, these ambulances were valued at 2,500 million, 2.5 billion rupees. For 182 ambulances. That brings close to 19 million rupees per ambulance. Now, does it have to be a European-made ambulance that Sri Lanka needs to travel on our roads?
No, that point I agree with you, Chris, because...
The money that's been unnecessarily spent. Now, did you know that the Maharagama Cancer Hospital, I'll just give you now, they're spending 2.5 billion rupees on ambulances. But then the Maharagama Cancer Hospital, recently there was a PET scanner that was needed, so 200 million was raised up. You know, being a cancer hospital, the hospital does not have an MRI scanner.
And I must say, Chris, I was just about to bring this point out. The PET scan is valued at 300 million Sri Lankan rupees, and it's sad to note that the government has only one PET scan in Sri Lanka.
That was funded by the people.
Yes, not even by the government.
So the cancer hospital, as of now, does not have an MRI scanner. Yeah. The radiotherapy machine that's there, it's you know, about 40 years old. 40 years old. So it's like having an old photocopy machine in your office that's 40 years old.
I agree with you.
And here we are spending 2.5 billion rupees on luxury ambulances, where basically you can redo up the entire cancer hospital by spending 2.1 billion rupees. And you know, this will cover up the radiotherapy machines, the kids, for children, you get the, there's a special type of ultra-sensitive, this is for kids. So like this, all these can be taken up and for between 2 billion rupees, but 2.5 billion goes for ambulances. So this is where the deviation has gone.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for that insight. I open the floor for questions. Let's start off with Shan. Shan, quite a bit of a fast walk. Was it a walk or was it?
It was thanks to the driver. It was
thanks to the driver. There you go. Anyway, so I open the floor for questions from you, Charlotte.
First, a slight deviation from what was being discussed. We spoke a lot about facts, and I would like to speak to Chris regarding this. I was listening to your answers, the answers that you gave to the questions posed by Shamir, of course. It reminded me of this British technique that's used. It's called whataboutism. So when you are posed with an accusation or a difficult question, you respond with a counter-accusation to that. And that was quite evident because that was what we see happen here. Now, my question to you is, you endorsed Mahinda Rajapaksa as, or the Rajapaksas to be, you know, possible contenders for the next presidential election and the most suitable people from our country to lead our country. Now, while you herald these people as, or this certain family as, you know, possible contenders for the presidential election, we saw them coming out in the past and saying that we made mistakes after former President Mahinda Rajapaksa lost the 2015 presidential election. He came out and he said, I made a mistake. I had files in my possession, files of people who did wrong during my regime, but I did not release them. The ethical thing that, you know, for instance, a foreign politician, a politician in another country would have done was come, say that, and maybe hand over the files to whatever investigative body and then step down from their political career. But we don't see that sort of you know, ethics being practiced here in Sri Lanka. People who come into power just want to keep on, you know, staying in power. And to see a young politician like yourself supporting them is a bit, you know, uneasy for me as a young person. Do you feel that my feelings are ill-placed, or do you object to this?
I would have to object to what you have said because, you know, you take the election that I came from, where I contested and came. It was basically, I won't say, you know, wipe-out win where the SLPP won, but as a party, from, you know, a couple of weeks, not even, it's like an infant, to just bloom out like that, and, you know, get so many votes, close upon 47% of the country's votes. Why is that? Does that not show?
Exactly. That brings me to my next question. What did the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna promise to their constituents during the local government election, and how far have you fulfilled those promises?
See, the country in 2014, no sooner that the government was toppled, 4 days after
2015.
2015, yeah. You get the central bank robbed in broad daylight.
Whataboutism.
Okay? So, you know, people were fed up with the amount of corruption. That's why, you know, His Excellency the President has formed a special committee, a commission.
There is no doubt, there is no doubt. I
2015
completely
to
agree with you.
2018 to, you know, go on to check the allegations of bribery and corruption.
True.
So, you know, being a part of the government, who also brought him in, he has to now face the fact that, you know, there's so much of bribery and corruption, and that's why he's formed this commission.
True, exactly. I agree with you with everything that you said. The people of this country are fed up of this government. You know, it's just scandal after scandal, and even today in our news bulletin we revealed details of more massive scale frauds still happening, even after the political unrest at the end of last year, and once the UMP championed themselves as, you know, champions of democracy and they came back into power, still corruption continues. But that's not my question. My question to you is, why can't the politicians of our country, instead of making massive revelations about the mistakes that their opponents have done, take responsibility for some things that they've done? Because as humans, like, we all make mistakes. I know for a fact, as a human being, I make mistakes. And when I do make a mistake, I come in front and I apologize. But we never see this happening in the political sphere. Politicians never make mistakes. Is that it?
So let me go back to how you started off. You said that, you know, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa came and he apologized, and he said that, you know, I had files in my hand and I did not bring it out.
So, but then what has he done regarding that? Has he handed over any of those files?
But still, weren't there special commissions that were brought forward? And these commissions that you know, for 4 years there were investigations going on.
Exactly.
So, you know,
so my question to you is shouldn't there be some new leadership in this country, besides the old people who just keep on coming and coming again? Now, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, of course, in the political arena, speak about Ranil Wickremesinghe being the leader of the United National Party for so long. True, it's time that he stepped down and gave the leadership to someone else. Isn't Mahinda Rajapaksa also following a similar policy?
So, see, you take the Podujana Peramuna. The leader of our party is GL Pires. You know, so it's in your idea also. You know, you all have branded the SLPP as a Rajapaksa this thing. And
it's confusing what the SLPP is, because,
you know, of course, we consider him as our leader.
Okay.
And, you know, that's us, and the people look forward to him. You know, with the previous political unrest. When 16 members of parliament were given the opposition seat, okay, you saw parliament, the situation of parliament. Now you see where the actual opposition is. So the true faces of the 225 people there is now evident, and you can see it clearly as to what the real picture is. But, you know, people, as I said, you know, majority of the people took Mahinda Rajapaksa's vote, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa's word, and they voted for the SLPP. So that means there is still that demand for him. But I'm not saying necessarily him. You know, for someone who he's guiding, someone who will come under his guidance. As to who the candidate will be, we'll leave that for the time of the election to come. But why is the UMP not coming up with their proper this thing? You know, the UMP, it's only about Ranil, and then Sajid might get it, and then on the other side you have Karuja. So that internal conflict of theirs is just sidelined by bringing out this Rajapaksa, and he's, you know, that same topic that has been brought over the last 4 years has not changed.
I'll pose a question to you in a minute about what you just said right now, but I want to drag my attention to Pradeep Jayawardena. Pradeep, ethical behavior of politicians, you know, do you think that the behavior of politicians in Sri Lanka at present is good enough for us to even look at the next few years and say there will be change in the country, there will be some sort of commitment from the ruling party members for Sri Lanka's development, just like Gamini Dissanayake thought of a few years ago? We saw in 1991 when Lalita Mudali came up with this container terminals for the Colombo harbour. People laughed at him and said it will be a failure, but today Sri Lanka's most foreign income comes from the Colombo port. That was the brainchild of Lalita Mudali many years ago. Do you think that we can expect that sort of caliber amongst Sri Lankan politicians in the next few years, at least even present?
Yeah, I think ethical behavior is a must, you know, if you want to go forward, because as you know, corruption has become a very serious problem in this country, and the last presidential election was basically fought on corruption, and people voted en masse to change the system, but unfortunately we got even more corruption. So I think to change the system and to bring ethical behavior is very, very important.
How do you view?
I think we need somebody with the political will. We need maybe one man with the political will to drive this through, and I think we have to be very tough. Few people have to go to jail. Few people have to have their assets confiscated. Not few, maybe many. Many people have to lose their jobs.
President declining to give the asset declaration of the Prime Minister, Transparency International, Sri Lanka, when they made an inquiry. How do you view this?
President declined? I didn't...
Presidential Secretariat blocking the Transparency International Sri Lanka from getting the asset declaration of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. How do you view this?
I think that asset declaration should be available, but I'm not sure whether we need to give it to NGOs and organizations outside the country.
No,
but the Right to Information Act...
Under the Right to Information Act, what happened was that an appeal was filed, and it was held that the Prime Minister's asset declarations must be released. However, they are now blocking it.
Even to an outside party, is it?
To Transparency International, Sri Lanka.
How do you view this, Pradeep?
It should be, if the law says that it should be given, then I have a moral issue with that, because I think that those asset declarations should be available to government when necessary, if the need arises, because usually they are kept under lock and key under
Pradeep, the National Chamber of Exporters, in one of their recent reports that was filed on Sri Lanka, and the topic says the next election, it articulates that at the next election, if there is an election, the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna is going to record a landslide victory. Does this worry the Sri Lanka Freedom Party? And coming from the National Chamber of Exporters in their document, stating that the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna will record a landslide victory, does this worry the Sri Lanka Freedom Party?
I think that's why the Sri Lankan Freedom Party has left the government, because the reason for the SLPP to record such a massive victory was it was an anti-government vote. So the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is no longer part of the government, and we believe that as part of the opposition, we are also part of that anti-government movement. So I don't see that as a problem today.
Dr. Jayasena, climate change is a massive issue, not just in Sri Lanka but across the world. However, Sri Lanka's awareness and preparedness when it comes to climate change is at a minimal level. At municipal council level, what actions are you taking to ensure that there is better preparedness, better awareness among the citizenry?
Yeah, about these environmental problems, I think Colombo Municipal Council has not taken enough measures, because we started with the slogan that Colombo Mayor say she wants to have a green city, right? And
yeah, but those are just slogans.
Yeah, slogan. Yeah, that was actually the limit, confined to slogans. What we see today is actually the fall of trees and fading of the greenery
and purchase of chairs which cost exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah, correct. And concrete buildings coming up, and in that place, greenery is fading. And actually, we are worried about that. And during last council meeting, we raised that question, and we actually asked them to take some measures to prevent that. And I think Mr. Pradeep is also in that one committee, I think, with the environmental. Through committees, we are trying to minimize that problem, and also thinking about the climatic changes and everything.
As concrete measures, what can you explain some of the measures you have taken?
Yeah, I think to plant some trees,
Yeah, I think
and also
But those can't be done in a haphazard manner, right?
No,
it has to be
there
done
should
in a
be
very
system.
scientific way.
Yeah, we have to
So are the
choose.
proper consultations being done? Are the experts being consulted in this respect?
Yes, I think we are in the process of doing that, because I also participate. I am not in that committee,
Right.
but usually as council members we participate in that
Mr. Jayawardena,
meetings.
could you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we can do to improve environment, not only to reduce the amount of poison gases, to reduce the carbon monoxide, reduce carbon dioxide, and to clean the air, is to increase the amount of trees in Colombo. So what we have been doing is a tree planting program. One is to protect the existing trees, and secondly to plant many new trees, and especially street trees, because research shows that street trees are able to absorb much more of the gases which are generated by vehicles.
Whilst I appreciate that, I feel that sometimes a point that politicians fail to take cognizance of is to engage the public also in solutions that they are trying to bring about. So for example, if people also have ownership in the solutions that are being brought, then it's more successful. Simple measures such as creating awareness about polythene usage, for example, although that is quite a cliched example, these need to be done. What measures in that respect are being taken?
I think there's a lot of truth in that, because especially with trees, if you take an example of trees, most of the shop owners or residence owners don't really like trees in front of them, because trees get in the way of their signboards, trees get in the way of their parking, so they are trying to get trees out. We even have situations where for an event or exhibition, they want to take the tree out because they are putting some decoration and it's in the way. So much more public engagement, I think, is necessary, and education is necessary. With regard to plastic, we have moved. We are working on a proposal to make the council itself plastic free, as an example. So this is something that we have been working on.
Right. What about digitization? As in now, all that's discussed at these committees, if those can be sort of compiled and computerized, I think it will bring about greater engagement with the public. Or is that already being done? Or
there is some discussion, but there is still a long way to go before proper digitization that can take place, because there is a lot of inertia and resistance to digitization, because the old systems are in place and nobody wants to change them. It is also difficult to change because it's such a large organization.
This is exactly where you come in, because I mean, as opposed to your more seasoned and senior counterparts, you are supposed to bring in that infusion of young blood, the innovation, the technological nuances.
That's already in the process.
We are working on it.
For example,
give us a timeline. Give the viewers a timeline.
Basically, the Devil Mountain Municipal Council, the people, the constituents of our area, will be able to have a public reporting system. I guess.
How soon?
Before August, for sure.
Right.
So we are in the process of doing that. Also, I was able to work towards and get 13 million rupees passed for a beach cleaner. So, see, I'll tell you a fact about the Mount Linear beach, that no one will actually want to go and swim there. But this is something that we have to really focus, and this is what we are doing. First of all, for the polythene and the plastics, we have about 150 tons of garbage collected per day. Of this, 48% are recyclables. And then of that, basically 78% are plastics that can be recycled, and the others are hard plastics. So we have spoken with a Japanese firm. It's still in discussions. I can't promise you that it will be done. So what we are looking at is to convert the plastics into fuel. So what the outcome of the project will be, we convert 20 tons of plastics, unsegregated plastics, into 14,000 liters of purified diesel. Now these 14,000 liters of purified diesel will be sufficient for us to run our council vehicles, as well as supply power to the national grid.
For how long is this, Chris?
For how long as in?
You say that this can be transformed into diesel. The plastic
it's an immediate plant. I can actually show, after the show I'll show you the videos as to how how the operation actually happens. So it's about investing our time in technology. Now, for example, as I said, public reporting. See, gone are the days that politicians should be the person who comes and put your street lamp, who should come and clean your drain. That's not why we are appointed there for. But there are some people who go there specifically for that. Because, see, you take a taxi now. It's those days you had to walk, from your house you had to walk to the closest three-wheel stand. But now technology has brought us so close that it's not only a three-wheel or taxi, it's your food that's at your doorstep. So why not be able to, make a complaint, if you have a public complaint about your street lamp, about your drain, about dengue controlling, or, so some people don't want to make complaints about their neighbor's dengue issue, or that they have a breeding grounds. But through this app, you'll be enabled to do it. It's already in the process of being developed. So this will be releasing out very soon. As I said, before August. As I said previously, the system is what slows us down.
You spoke about a beach cleanup program, right?
No, beach cleaner. So, see, the problem is, however much we do a beach cleanup, the following 2-3 hours later, we have the same dirt piled up. Now, to cover...
And that's because the people aren't given the proper awareness and the education to not pollute.
See, it's not the people who come to the beach that pollute it. It's the canals that are polluted. So now we have already fixed a couple of, we're still testing the best trap, the waste traps. So by this we are going to, have a waste trap solution where the garbage will be stopped without coming into the sea. And also, there are a couple of, see, when social empowerment, and when we take as a council, it's part of our duty. So we are also looking at having artists to come forward and help us with beautification, the city beautification, icons.
Chris, all these plans are well and good. You speak about an app which is a similar system that is adopted in the state of Victoria as well, where people can complain about their issues using a mobile app to the Victorian State Governor in Melbourne, and then things do happen quite quickly. But we're talking about a Colombo Municipal Council that doesn't even have a website to log on to.
Ours we do, dmmc.lk.
I'm just on that, and this is what you get. It's a blank site. And you could do the same on a mobile phone when we go for the short commercial break. We're talking about all this, well and good, but do we really, can we do it? Because we can't even have a basic website for the Colombo Municipal, for the Devil Mount Municipal Council to be running smoothly. And we're talking about an app, and the people are going to be queuing up again in front of the Devil Mount Municipal Council saying the app is not working, and probably will be throwing those phones at you when things don't materialize.
I'll bring up a small problem that we have even now. This is the payment of rates. There are people standing in line. Some people wait up to 40 minutes just to pay their rates. Now it's basically what we should consider as like a customer service. So, we've already tendered it out. The tender has been, the procurement has been done for basically a payment kiosk. So it's 24 hours, you can pay your rates, and it will be placed, now for the moment it's one machine, one unit, but we're going to have another 2 units coming up, and that will be placed in different locations. So we're gradually doing this. And as you said...
But is it, Chris, all this is well and good, but let's look at your locality. Okay, let's look at the Devil Mount Municipal Council. How many people in your council have access to a smartphone?
Majority.
But Chris,
if there's I can't mention the name of the service, but if there's 60,000 vehicles or maybe close upon 100,000 vehicles operating as taxis within Colombo, within the district of Colombo, and there's so many people using this service via their mobile phone, why can't my constituents...
Chris, do you know that there are people in the Colombo municipality area who can't even eat or have a basic meal, and you want them to start using their mobile phones? Do you know the data on the telephone bill, thanks to the government in Sri Lanka, stands at more than 400 bucks for every 1,500 rupees you use. You're paying 400 rupees extra to the government.
See,
and then we are talking about having an app. Why not start looking at the grassroots level problems that we have? Start thinking, okay, if we are going to go for digitization, the usage of internet should increase. The taxation which is applicable has to reduce. Why not think about these issues first? All these are well and good, you know, it's good plans. At the end of the day, this is what people like us also want Colombo to be, but look at the grassroots level issues. Look at the issues that we have in play. Isn't this important?
As a council,
Chris, you know, you probably will be able to afford a smartphone and use your phone to start paying your mobile bills, your phone bills. I have individuals working who are laborers, who are in the Colombo city limits, who come and tell me, we can't afford the data packages that are offered by the mobile service providers because the taxes are way too high.
What we are offering is we are offering a tool of convenience. So it's up to the person who can afford it. Or I'm not saying you know.
And then still there are going to be lines.
It's not that not that our services are going to change from what we've been doing. It's the same platform of services. It's just that we're bringing a way of convenience. I'm giving convenience to majority of the people.
Now, example, you spoke about the plastic to fuel transformation of diesel. How much of plastics do you collect? I'm just trying to do a quick math. How much of plastic do you collect a day?
So we collect about between 15 to 17 tons of plastics a day.
Between 15
to 17 tons of plastics
a day.
Yeah.
From the Dehiwala
28 wards.
Okay.
28 wards. So from the 28 wards,
so how much does
272 square kilometers.
So how much does the 15 to 17 tons account to in terms of fuel?
So, you know, as I said, if it's 20 tons into 14,000 liters, for the plant to run we need 20 tons. As I said, you know, this is just I just gave you the future, what we are looking at.
Yeah, but it has to be a feasible project, isn't it? Because we're talking about big projects, but are these all feasible for a country like Sri Lanka? Why not have a system where there is a proper waste disposal system at the start? Let's not talk about big things. Let's talk about little things. Because Rome was not built in a day. It took many, many years. Let's start somewhere, and that's starting somewhere. Shouldn't it be from the grassroots, ensuring that the people, first of all, have a basic square meal? There is no dengue breeding grounds. You know that Dehiwala Mountain Municipal Council recorded the highest number of dengue patients last year. And these are statistics that are on the websites. And isn't this the most burning issue? Saving children.
Not last year, it was the year before.
The year before. But we're talking about saving children's lives. Isn't this the focus of the councillors, or shouldn't this be the focus? Saving an individual's lives, saving children's lives, making sure that they don't go and queue up at the Colombo South Teaching Hospital. Mustn't this be the focus? Why are we talking big things? Why aren't we starting from the grassroots and start thinking, tapping the hearts and minds of the individual and see how many people have dwellings? How many people have a roof on top of their head? How many people can eat a basic square meal? What is their daily requirement of nutrition? Aren't these the basic things?
These are basic things that we address day in, day out. See, a municipal council, we are basically the heart of entire system, you know. You take the Ministry of Health, the entire nation would know the Minister of Health. But you take Dehiwala Mount Lavinia, my constituents, the people there, they know who I am because they see what we do. You know, it's the attitude that we put towards it. And, you know, of course, by saying that, you know, the grassroots has to be, this is things that we do day in, day out. We have preschools that are given free education. We do dengue eradication programs day in, day out, morning till evening, morning from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock because of this thing. Then from evening, we go on till about 7 o'clock in the evening. During the daytime, we can't do the fogging, but we do the education programs. For meals, to eradicate poverty, we have a special program that we have, you know, we create job opportunities. So these things are things that we are doing day in and day out. They're already running.
But are you doing enough?
And we are doing the best. You know, if we had the central government coming up and saying, you know, look here, we'll give you this. Why don't you take this and why don't you run it? We'll be more than happy to do it.
I think also
we are a self-sufficient municipal council with 1 billion deposits. We have a reserve of 1 billion rupees. No other council has that. And actually now what we've been discussing is, let's put this, we will not keep it in fixed deposits. Let's put it into like a municipal corporation fund and invest it in the country.
Mr. Jayawardena, how do you exactly deal with unplanned housing? On the one hand you have shanties, on the other you have condominium properties mushrooming. How do you deal with this? Because this is one of the biggest issues we're facing today.
Yeah, that's correct. Colombo population actually is declining because the middle class is finding it so difficult to live in Colombo and they are moving out. So you have two sides. You have a very high-end apartments coming up and sometimes $1 million homes. And on the other side you have extremely poor people living in Colombo. And there has been a program to take some of these people out and build new residences, but in the outskirts of Colombo. And this is causing a lot of difficulty in their livelihood, because many of these low-income families are living by providing services in the city itself. They do many different things like food supplies and labor services, and many ways that they contribute to the economy. So we feel that we have to try to retain these people. Despite the housing programs that are going on, it's important to have housing programs which within the city itself to retain many of these people. So this is one of the big issues we are looking at, because this urban migration also creates another problem. It also adds to the traffic problem, because everybody then has to drive back into Colombo to work. So these are some of the issues, and fundamental issue I think is zoning. We have to relook at the entire zoning of Colombo, because the zoning is antiquated. Need to relook at zoning, because if you take the businesses also in Colombo, many areas are declared as residential areas, but now we are finding that many businesses are coming into these areas, and then the residences get disturbed.
Now when it comes to an issue like this, in order to find solutions, do you all consult experts? Do you all look at scientific methodologies in resolving these, or how does it work?
Yes, we do. There are several studies that have been done on housing. We consult them and we discuss them at the standing committees, and some of them will then go to the council.
The housing solution, the whole housing subject is given to the municipalities through the UDA ordinance. So it's through the ordinance that we function, and we're like basically see, we have so many ordinances that we work with. We have the police ordinance. We have like
But most of the apartments have been coming from the ward that you are representing.
No, not mine.
You're
now it's coming up. See. As I said, you know, residential areas, mixed development areas. So this is an argument that I have on and off with the UDA. You know, I asked them, and what happened was we had a certain, we were given a certain area, or you know, certain amount of laws.
Decentralized.
But then the Ministry of Megapolis, they just absorbed all that power and gave us, okay, you know, you guys can have only residential apartments, leave it to us. So here we see, in highly residential areas, in small properties, apartments coming up. So now this is a problem that we have.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We need to leave it at that for the moment. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the final round. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. The final round, just a few minutes more to go, 3 minutes to be very precise as far as the final round is concerned. So let's start off with Chris Balthazar, Devil Mountain Municipal Councillor representing the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna. Chris, in one of your responses to Sonali's question, you said about Ranil Wickremesinghe being the next presidential candidate. You said Sajith Premadasa might, that's the exact word you used, might be the next presidential candidate. And then you said there's also talk about Karu Jayasuriya being the next presidential candidate from the UNP. let's not look that far. Let's look at the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna for an example. You have Gotabaya Rajapaksa saying, I am ready. You have Chamal Rajapaksa saying, I am ready as well. You say Namal Rajapaksa is also ready.
No. I never said that he is ready. I'm just saying, what I said that that was that the 19th Amendment.
Right. Okay.
Was
so you said he's a potential leader, and
he has the potential. Likewise, there are so many other potential leaders.
So, and again, as I said, don't look far. And then Mahinda Rajapaksa, who says he can contest and become a would-be prime ministerial candidate if the power is vested to him. So let's not look far. Let's look at the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna alone. You all have conflicts internally as well, just like the UNP.
No, not exactly. It's just that these are created by the United National Party just to cover up their problems. Now, why haven't we asked the JVP as to who their candidate is? Are they going to support the UMP this time around? Or who their candidate is going to be?
You can just look onto your left and ask Dr. Jayasena that question.
So we don't have a problem. But it's just that people are trying to create a problem. They're trying their level best to get at us.
No, but no one is creating a problem. When you have put the mic to Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Vietnam program, he said, I am ready if the people are ready. When you put the mic to Chamal Rajapaksa, he says, yes, I'm ready as well. Now, this is not what is created by the people. This is what they say. And this is on record.
When His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena came in as a presidential candidate, there was an element of surprise for everyone in the nation at that time. So likewise, I guess this time around, when it comes to the SLPP, there will be a big element of surprise as to who the candidate is.
So you mean to say that the SLPP is going to contest independently without the support of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party at the next election?
No, we'll definitely now, since we've gotten together, we'll definitely continue together.
Are you all together?
We are together. There's no doubt about it.
Very quickly, I want to move to Dr. Jayasena, but Pradeep, is the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna together?
Yes, certainly. I think at the top level they are very much together. At the bottom end, the grassroots, I think still the modalities have to be worked out, how you bring such a large two groups of people.
So the bottom-up approach.
But again, we can see, you take the budgets. Now, where the FP and the UMP formed, the local governments, all those local governments, the UNP were defeated.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Chris, for joining us this evening on the show. Chris, very quickly before I move to Dr. Ranjan Jayasena, you said the Colombo Municipal Council, the Dehivel Mountain Municipal Council has 1 billion in fixed deposits. Am I right? So that's a staggering
986 million to be exact.
Okay, so let's say 1 billion. So that's a staggering 125 million a year that's coming as revenue from the fixed deposits. So if it's at a 12.5% interest, what's happening to this 125 million that's coming out?
That goes there. That's also within the budget. On the income, it's shown on the income.
It's on this.
It's shown on the income. Yeah.
Is that on the website? Or then the website doesn't work.
This I can always send you a copy. You're free to.
No, is it on the website? Not for my.
No.
Yeah. Okay. But the website doesn't work either.
I just saw that. I'll have a look.
It doesn't work, right, Chris?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for. Technical failure. Sometimes you go off air.
It always happens, Chris. Don't worry about it. Every single time we have someone talking on a website, I Google it and it doesn't work. Probably it's my luck or it's just unfortunate of the guest. Anyway, moving on to Dr. Jayasena. Dr. Jayasena, Chris hit the nail on the head. He said, what is the JP doing? Where is the JP leadership in terms of the next election?
Actually, we are not concerned who is coming from UMP, who is coming from SLPP or SLFP. Actually, we are trying to get this executive presidency abolished. That's our main aim. We are not bothered about the presidential election. Actually, if it is inevitable and if we can't get that done, then we have rejected the concept of common candidate. Then, therefore, JVP will produce put forward a candidate.
Dr. Jayasena, do you agree if I ask you that the JP will never be able to win a presidential election in the next foreseeable future?
You can't say that because now there is a saying, people can learn 1,000 things from one political event than going through 1,000 books, right? That was evident on 26th of October. Now we believe that people are fed up of both parties. Therefore, now people will have to resort to an alternative force. We hope the alternative force left is JVP. There's no other force. I think people will gradually turn towards us.
But not at the next election.
It may take little time. We never know. There's a lot of things happen suddenly in the political world. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India. If you take India in 1970s, now where was the BJP? It was actually below the JVP level, but because of the corruption practiced by Janata Dal party, the people decided to bring BJP to power, Vajpayee, right? And Pakistan, and because of this corruption and the bad political culture and the attitudes of the Pakistani leaders, then Imran Khan, who didn't have a single seat during previous came to power. Therefore, this sort of sudden change can occur in any country, and we hope it can happen in Sri Lanka
as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Rani Jayasen, for joining us this evening on the show. I now move to Pradeep Jayawardena, Kalam Municipal Council, representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Pradeep, I want some insight from you in terms of the future. Can we look at the next few months in Sri Lanka up until the year 2020 with some hope, with some aspiration? Can we be positive, optimistic? Is there a silver lining for us in the next few months, at least until the next presidential elections are over?
I think so. I think we are in a period of change. We've had a different arrangement of government with the national government that has ended now. So we see the UNP government now very, very keen on getting things done, getting some action, moving forward to implementing whatever projects that have been taken. So I think that's very good. It was not the case before. And I also think that election year will mean that many new things will come up, many new people will come up, new leaders. We see people coming into the political field. And I think nothing lasts forever, everything changes. So I'm very hopeful that we will have a change, and a change for the better.
Very quickly, Pradeep, you say that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna are united. But when Hizbullah's seat fell vacant after he was appointed as the governor of the Eastern Province, there was a proposal made by the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna to put in Charita Herath, the one-time secretary to the Ministry of Mass Media, to the post of that vacant seat. But President Sirisena went and appointed an individual who was very close to him and who was leading the youth movement of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, who was from the Kurunagal district, who lost the vote by just approximately 196 votes. So there seems to be a clear division within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna, because you saw when the president went to Philippines, he consulted President Mahinda Rajapaksa, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, to appoint a few individuals in his delegation, but that too did not happen. Only a few parliamentarians went with President Sirisena to Philippines also. So there is a division, isn't it? They're still trying to test the waters between how this relationship is going, isn't it?
I don't think it's a division. I think there's difficulties in the mechanics of how the two parties are working, and I think that is why there's been a big change in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party with Dasya Jayasekara being appointed as secretary, and I think he is already at work, and I see that there will be a lot of better engagement and better improvement of how the two parties will work together.
Right then, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on the show. Thank you very much, Pradeep Jayawardena, Colombo Municipal Councillor, the grandson of Mr. J.R. Jayawardena, the first executive president of Sri Lanka, joining us this evening on the show. It was a pleasure having you tonight on Face the Nation. Thank you very much, the young Chris Balsab. Chris, I'm just a year older to you, so there you go. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on the show. People may be thinking when I call you young, I may be far more older than you, but I'm not. So thank you very much,
Thank you very much
Chris Balsab, for joining us this evening on the show. It's always a pleasure to hear some young blood, young voice coming on the show and expressing their views. And I think your vision for Sri Lanka, as far as the Colombo Municipal Council is concerned, with regard to digitization, using an app, that should be the future. But again, it's important to remember that there is a section of Sri Lanka that needs support for us to take that to the next step. Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Jayasen, for joining us after a lapse of nearly 10 months. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. Let's hope and pray the change that you envisage is coming from the JVP and not any other political party. Hopefully, in the next few months, we can wait and see for that. Thank you very much, Sharon, for joining us this evening. Long day. Thank you very much. Rushing from Braybrook Place to Stein Studios in Ratmalana to pose questions from our panelists. Attorney at law, Sonali Vanigawadi, it's always a pleasure to have you on board, as always. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. You cannot discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. A message to all Sri Lankans. We may have to let go of certain things, but for a better tomorrow. Take care and good night.